Today I'm going to explain why masturbation is a sin. This is a taboo topic amongst men. Especially in the West and modern times, young guys are encouraged to self-pleasure, to indulge in jerking off. Whether you are single or taken, even then, men are still encouraged to self-pleasure. It's okay to have a release, get rid of that sexual frustration. But is there a negative side to masturbation? Well, let's go to the Bible. What does the Word of God say? Because ultimately, the Creator has the final say on what is right or wrong. And if you want to live a righteous life, you must adhere to the principles that God gives us through His Word. So in this video, I'm going to break down why masturbation is a sin, going into 3 key points that showcase exactly why that is. Obviously some more information as well. But let's begin with a Bible verse that encompasses the overall theme of this topic. 1 Corinthians 7:3 verse 4 tells us, "Let the husband render unto the wife due benevolence, and likewise the wife unto the husband. The wife has no power over her own body but the husband, and likewise also the husband has no power over his own body but the wife. When a man and a woman come together and they marry, they become one flesh, they share their bodies, they belong to each other." This is exactly what this Bible verse is telling us. And when it tells us at the beginning, let the husband render to the wife due benevolence, and likewise, benevolence means to meet each other's needs with kindness. And in this context, it is referring to sex. You may be wondering, Christian, what does this have to do with masturbation? Masturbation has nothing to do with sex. Or does it? This is where masturbation becomes a sin. Scripture clearly teaches us that sexual pleasure is only to be derived in the context of 2 people of the opposite sex in a lifelong commitment. In other words, marriage. And there are 3 parts involved to make sex morally lawful and natural in the eyes of the Creator, and that actually works in society. 3 aspects. Number 1, for sex to be right, it has to involve 2 individuals. The sex of those 2 individuals must be of the opposite gender, because to bring forth children into the world, common sense. And thirdly, the commitment of these 2 individuals through marriage under the watchful eye of the Creator. Okay? And live this out publicly in society to showcase their true intentions. But when you look at masturbation, it fails in these 3 key areas, which define sex. Because masturbation doesn't have 2 individuals, it has 1. Even then, does it involve 2 individuals of the opposite sex? No, it involves you. And it goes against marriage. It's separate from marriage. Because once you're married, your body belongs to your wife and vice versa. You please each other sexually. But if you're masturbating, then you're separating from your wife physically. You're pleasing yourself and you're neglecting her needs, making masturbation immoral. That is why it is wrong. And now I'm really going to go deep into this to explain exactly why that is. I know there's going to be a lot of guys watching this who struggle with their lust and masturbation. A lot of young men have been grown up in the culture here in the West to live that way. I myself was one of them. When I was a young lad, when I was a teenager growing up, it was encouraged. All the guys at school were talking about it. And if you weren't choking the chicken or watching pornography, you were seen as a weirdo. It was seen as cool and morally acceptable. We have a lot of young men who grew up with that. They're coming into their 20s, or perhaps they're in their 30s and older. And you get into a cycle of degeneracy that affects the way you see women. This is why masturbation is a dangerous, slippery slope, no pun intended, and it can seriously damage the way you view relationships. So yes, God designed sex to be pleasurable. It does. And it's supposed to deepen intimacy between a husband and wife. It's the gift you get by being committed to each other. But when you condition yourself with years of self-pleasure, you begin to view sex, marriage, and women as something to extract from, something to take, something to use for your own desires. Whereas, what is the whole point of a relationship? You go there to give. It's not about you. It's about being selfless and giving sacrificially and pouring into the commitment. But when you've conditioned yourself from years of pornography use and masturbation, you start to fetishize. You start to idealize or romanticize a relationship for your own self-gain. So then when you're in a relationship, you don't know how to give. And this is where most men are stuck at. And I'm telling you right now, good women, they can smell the lust on you. They can see it in your eyes. They can see when you want to take from her and not be genuine. So you can't fake this ultimately. If you're a chronic masturbator or a porn addict and you need help, go get the help you need. If you're too afraid to talk to a friend or a family member, there's probably a reason why you Google this and you're watching this video. You can reach out to me. You can join my community, book a call, and I'll coach you. I'll mentor you. But for a lot of men, it is a difficult urge. It's a struggle that they lack self-control in. So when you start to take and use and extract from women, you damage the fabric of a commitment. And this is why masturbation is immoral, because it starts there. And it can turn you into a very selfish man. When in reality, sex is supposed to be selfless, mutual, a loving act where you both come together. How would you feel if your wife didn't want to have sex with you and you were the only one wanting it? Or vice versa. You know, just a lot of testimonials of women who struggle with that. The husband doesn't want to be intimate, but then they catch the guy jerking off in a corner. That breaks apart marriages. You're not doing your duty. So you may be wondering, but what if I'm a single man? Isn't it different? Because I've just described the 3 factors that make sex lawful and right. But what if I'm single Christian and I'm not having sex? I'm just waiting for marriage. I can still masturbate if I want to, right? Well, when you masturbate as a single man, it's also immoral because you satisfy yourself and you develop and you run the risk of falling into sexual fantasies, whether it's imaginary. Whether you have a girlfriend or you just started dating a girl and you're looking at pictures of her, or you start Googling other things on the internet that you shouldn't, okay, it falls into vain imagination. Or even if it's something visual that you're looking at through a screen, it still conditions you to fetishize and idealize women in an unnatural way that can create shame, fear, and uncertainty in your ability to lead, court, and treat your future wife with love. I know so many men over the years who they run away from relationships. They don't want to be committed to a woman. And it's not because they're afraid of divorce, because if you do vet a woman properly from the get-go, you know what you're dealing with, you assess it logically, you'll be fine. That's not the reason why guys are scared. Most men are afraid of committing to a woman because of the skeletons in their closets. And I'm referring to sexual immorality, the shame. There's guys out there that are virgin. They don't have a body count. So you could say they're sexually pure, but their hearts and their intentions are not pure at all. These men are chronic masturbators and porn addicts, and they've gone so deep into such strange fetishes that they probably wouldn't even get an erection around their wife because they need to detox and unlearn all of that toxicity. But that's affecting them. And a lot of men are not taught how to lead. They don't understand marriage, and they just take the easy way out. They go on the internet and they start jerking off. They live a life of self-pleasure, and that prevents them from seeking a woman because they've given up. And it doesn't have to be that way. Genesis 2:18 tells us it's not good that a man should be alone. God said he'll make a helper suitable for you. And I believe if every man picks up his Bible and gets right with God and sets himself straight and he goes out into the world, he can find a wife, he can find a good woman, and you'll be happy. And if you guys want help with that, it's what I teach men to do personally. There's a link down below to my course, Relationship Mastery. Book a call to see if it's right for you. I'll check your application and then get you started. But with that said, let's dive deep into the video. There are 3 reasons why masturbation is immoral. Number 1, Masturbation involves a single individual. So it's sinful because it only involves yourself. We're so far gone in society that because we're always taught that masturbation is so cool and so alpha and everyone does it, we don't think it's bad. But remove your ego. Look at it objectively based on what I have just told you so far in the video, and look at it for what it really is. Masturbation is an extremely selfish and narcissistic act, and it violates 1 Corinthians 7:3 verse 4. Your body belongs to your wife. If you're single, your body belongs to your future wife. That's how you have to look at it. Imagine if you caught your wife sitting in a corner playing with some weird sex toys, right? Or touching herself to an image of another man. Would you not feel betrayed? Would you not feel disrespected? Exactly. Why? Because your wife belongs to you, and vice versa. So sexual pleasure should never be a singular thing. And this is why masturbation is wrong. You end up developing these fantasies and these fetishes. This is the origin point. If you stopped self-pleasuring, over time, you would change the habit. And you'll end up being disgusted by it. You'll look back at the past and say, I'm glad I stopped doing that. Because it's wrong. So in this verse, we see very clearly that your wife, she has sexual authority over your body because you belong to her. And vice versa. You become one flesh, you've joined together. You should be sharing everything. You should be holding nothing back. You should be honest and open about every little detail in each other's life. Then and only then can you come together and be intimate. Sex is the cherry on top in marriage, but everything else has to be there, the bedrock, the foundation. So if this is an invariable condition for marriage, then the husband surrenders the power of his body and gives it up to his wife. How could a husband then go disconnect from his wife as if he was free to do so? And the same goes for the wife. You don't have a right when you're married to just leave to a corner and start jerking off. If you and your wife are not pleasing each other in intimacy, you need to have a sit down and address other issues that may be going on. Other unmet needs. Maybe you're not courting her properly. Maybe there's health problems that can be sorted out and fixed. Okay? Maybe there's not enough trust in your relationship. But whatever that is, you sit down and you discuss it. The intimacy comes later once you're both open and connected to each other. Okay? So again, going back to if you're a single man and you're masturbating and you're just choking the chicken by yourself, you're conditioning your body and your mind to see a sexual release as an individual act, as something for you, when you want it, if you want it, on your terms, on your conditions, instead of a mutual loving thing that's for your wife. Your sexual release is for your wife's pleasure. Her sexual release is for your pleasure. But instead you're doing it by yourself. And in doing so whilst you're single, why would you want to be in a relationship? Why would you want to be married to a woman if you can just pleasure yourself? And furthermore, because it changes the way you see sex as something selfish, when you do decide to be in a relationship, you're going to look at sex as, what do I get? How can I manipulate her? How can I take from her? How can I use her? It's about me, me, me. And that's not what a relationship is. So it can develop some sense of narcissism, because narcissism does run on a spectrum. And it turns you into a selfish man. So you want to be very careful with that. If you're burning in lust and you really want to find a woman, get yourself straightened out and go find her. But masturbation's got to go. Nobody proudly jerks off. If you were so proud, you'd do it in front of your family, right? But you wouldn't. You go to the bathroom when no one's watching, or hidden in a corner in your bedroom. It's when people commit crime in the dark, in the night, away from the public eye. It's shame, it's guilt, and this is exactly what's going to happen to you. Masturbation is sinful because, number one, it involves a single individual, which is yourself. And if you do that 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, I'm ready to find a woman, and you don't give up this lifestyle, why do you want a woman? I would question. What is your intention behind finding a wife? Do you want a woman you can grow old with, or do you just want an object for sexual release? And this is why so many guys don't get a good woman. This is why so many men don't even bother asking a woman about their sexual history, their body count, their past, because these men aren't clean. They don't care about these things in the wife they choose. They just want a warm body they can pipe, because they're conditioned to see sex as something to take. They don't see sex as something beautiful, loving, as a good way to connect with a woman. It's just a sexual release for them. It's just an animalistic urge. And you do that by yourself, it's actually quite weak. If you look at it that way, you're such a failure as a man that you can't get a woman to commit to you, that you need to jerk off in a corner. That's really what masturbation is. Where's the self-control? Where's the discipline? This is a stepping stone. If you can't get rid of masturbation, you should be very careful with wanting a wife. So, again, what we covered earlier, sex must not involve more than two people, but that means it may not involve less than two people. If it's three people, it's a threesome or a foursome. It's also immoral and disgusting, because it's one husband, one wife, one man, one woman. And if it's less, it's just you pleasing yourself, it's also wrong. Either way, it's selfish. If it's two people, it's reciprocal, it's mutual. So that's the first reason. The second reason why masturbation is a sin is because it involves a single sex. I know this is going to sound confusing to some. This is why I'm here to explain. So, previously I mentioned in the first reason, masturbation is sinful because it involves a single individual, yourself. It's just a you activity, which is not what sex was designed for. But this is similar, because not only are you an individual pleasing yourself, it is a single sex activity. Because when you're self-pleasuring as an individual, a woman isn't pleasing you, your wife isn't pleasing you. Who's pleasing you? Your own body, a male's body, same sex. Which again, it violates 1 Corinthians 7, 3-5. Because if you're a married man doing this, well, it's solo sex without your wife, which is wrong, because she has authority over your body, not only yourself. It's a mutual thing. And if you're a single man and you're not committed, it's still wrong, because it's also an individual act, because it involves one sex, which is male. You're the only male doing it. Obviously, there's certain things I can't say here on YouTube, but male plus male or female plus female is also immoral. So, sexual pleasure should only derive from a member of the opposite sex. So, if it's just you pleasing yourself, it's still wrong. Male plus female is the blueprint, and what you're doing is just male. Masturbation is against nature because it's a single sex activity. There's some things I would love to mention on here on YouTube, which I could go deeper, because this does deviate from same sex. A lot of it is correlated with masturbation, but I can't mention that for the obvious reason. So you guys will have to just connect the dots on that. But the principle of a male receiving sexual pleasure from same gender is sinful, and it's clearly laid out in scripture, which I'm not going to add here. But this relates to the point of, as a male, you don't receive pleasure from you, a male, whether it's another male. You only receive pleasure from the female, being your wife. So if you're single and you're just soloing it, it's still bad because it's still single sex. Going back to the beginning, the 3 parts involved to make sex lawful and natural. The number of individuals are 2, which we just covered. Masturbation is only 1. And then the sex of the individuals must be opposite. Well, if you're only jerking off by yourself, there's no opposite gender. It's a solo thing as well. So it also, masturbation fails in that area too. So it doesn't constitute lawful sex, biblically speaking. And finally, the third reason why masturbation is separate from marriage. Masturbation dishonors marriage. It dishonors commitment. It's independent of marriage. It's separate from it. We have been so conditioned by the sexual revolution in our society that anything sexual is seen as positive. Anything but commitment between man and woman, right? There's married couples out there and husbands are going off to the corner and they're typing PORN into the computer and they've got a wife and kids. There's wives out there who claim to love their husband and they're going off to the corner with a toy or reading an inappropriate novel or watching content they shouldn't be, vice versa. And then they're justifying it as, well, I'm just pleasuring myself because my husband can't please me today or my wife can't please me today. They're too tired or they're sick. Hey, what about self-control? If you need to take a break from intimacy with your spouse, you discuss that as husband and wife. And you reconnect and re-engage when the time is right. But going off and pleasing yourself, it's separate from marriage. It's wrong. Again, as we saw in the second point and the first point, all of these violate 1 Corinthians 7, 3-5 or 3-4. Once again, it violates it here too. If a man does not stop masturbating during his singlehood, then by the time he enters marriage, he will have selfish reasons behind engaging in sexual intercourse that will further dishonor his wife. It's a slippery slope. There's men out there and they see no problem with watching pornography and they have a beautiful woman in their life. But they're so desensitized to it and they're addicted because of the cycle that they've created. People don't just start masturbating at the age of 40 and they've never done it before in the past. It starts when you're young. And no fathers are teaching their sons. We have the education system and you've got the internet with no restrictions, no control. And unfortunately, a lot of curious boys that are interested in learning about their sexuality are not having strong masculine men teaching them the truth. So because of their curiosity, they find loopholes. They go into the internet, they start researching on their own, and they start self-pleasuring. No one's telling them otherwise. I know my father never taught me, and it's been the case with many men that I've coached, that I've interacted with over the years. Because there is a shame. And ask yourself, if your father isn't teaching you or educating you on these things, and we know how serious this is, there's a disconnect there. If your father or father figure never taught you the importance of sexual purity, of abstinence, of chastity, it's probably because, number one, he didn't believe in it himself, or he's so ashamed by the things he does in darkness that it doesn't feel right for him to even teach you because he doesn't live it out himself. So you need to be the generation that makes a difference. This is serious stuff. Okay? When you're a married man, your body belongs to your wife. But the attitude you want to have when you're single is, your body belongs to your future wife. So don't dishonor it now. Keep it clean for her. A lot of you guys want a woman with a low body count, a woman with no sexual history, a woman that's this clean, sweet angel. And then you're sitting there jerking off. You're sitting there watching all this disgusting material on the internet. But you want a clean woman. Please remove the speck out of your eye first, men. Be clean. Offer yourself as a man who's husband material before you decide to say, I want that one there to be my wife. What do you offer? You want a woman with a clean past and a clean conscience? Make sure you have a clean one too. So you can stop masturbating today. If it's important enough for you, you'll just stop doing it. The beauty of sex is that when you engage in it properly, how God intended, it strengthens the bond of marriage. The fact that sex is reserved for marriage is designed to push a man towards maturity. He needs to become the type of man a woman would give her body to, and in doing so, tie herself to him forever, biologically, through the creation of a child. And the same is true of a woman. She must become the sort of woman that isn't just attractive physically, but also in terms of her character. She needs to be the sort of woman that a man would trust with his own progeny, with his lineage, with his descendants, and happily lay his life down to defend her. Then once you're married, sex becomes almost like a renewal of the mind. It's like the activity you can both look forward to because you're committed to each other. And again, masturbation cannot achieve any of this, which is why it is separate from marriage, making it the third reason why masturbation is immoral. Masturbation does not achieve unity between husband and wife. It does the opposite. It separates you from your wife. It causes shame. It causes skeletons in the closet. When you're showing up with your woman, you got to hide stuff. You're fearful. There's guys out there that they make love to their wife and they're thinking about other women. They're thinking about the content they've been consuming for years because they're that deranged. This is a very slippery slope. And it all starts with masturbation. Once you start masturbating and you do more of it, then you need more of it. Then that's not enough. Then you need to consume more imaginary or visual content to stimulate you. Then you need more. Then it becomes a fetish. And these guys don't heal from this. They don't stop this lifestyle. And then at some point they just come across a woman, yep, I'll marry her. And they never stop what they're doing in darkness. And they get good at doing it by so many years that they hide it from their wives. Some men get caught and lose their women. Some women are kind enough to stay by the man's side and let him get fixed up and changed. But prevention is better than cure. So I'm speaking to you with sincerity. Men, if you are single, stop masturbating. It's wrong. You are dishonoring your future wife. Just close your eyes for a second and ask yourself, would you want your future wife right now to be pleasuring herself to a 50 Shades of Grey novel? To be pleasuring herself to male models and handsome actors or celebrities? Of course not. So how do you think she feels, a good wife would feel, to know that you are closing your eyes and pleasuring yourself to pornographic actresses and other attractive women? It's dishonorable, is it not? So if you don't like it, don't do it. As Jesus said, do unto others as you'd have others do unto you. And it all starts with your intention. Get yourself clean today. If you're a single man, stop masturbating. Masturbation is a sin because it involves a single individual of a single sex, which can't pleasure the opposite gender, and it separates you from your marriage. It causes distrust. It breaks that union apart because you're not fully committed to your wife. You're not fully committed to meeting her needs, are you? You're not fully giving or being present with her because you're selfish and you're detached. And you can stop and prevent this today by quitting masturbation. And it will further help you clear it up and clean your heart, and you'll be more excited to meet a woman and start courting and get married because you don't have anything to hide. You're ready for it. Okay? And if you guys are married, then still, you should stop. Got a girlfriend? Stop. You have a fiance? Stop. Okay? So in a nutshell, these are the 3 reasons why masturbation is a sin. Okay? Continue selfish. It's individualistic. One way you can judge how successful a man is by the quality of woman by his side. In biblical societies, you were not even considered a man if you didn't have a wife. Do you guys understand how serious that is? As a man, you are pretty much a failure if you can't get a woman. You're telling me out of all the women in the world, you can't get one good traditional woman to commit to you and love you for who you are? That says who you are as a man. There's something seriously wrong with you. We have knowledge at our fingertips on the internet today. We have medicine, we have technological advancements. And you're telling me you still can't get it? There's something wrong with you that you need to change. And it might be your sin. Because back in the day, most men and women would marry young. And they'd love each other and they'd honor each other. They weren't masturbating. The guys weren't going off to a corner and pleasing themselves. They were pleasing their wives and vice versa. So if you're engaged in a single sex activity of masturbation, you're a failure. And it's time to stop. If you're married or you're considering getting married, it's going to separate you from your wife. You're going to pull away from her. You're not going to be engaged or present or truly be able to love her when you're holding back, when you're hiding, when you're not being genuine. You cannot show up and be truthful to a woman when your intention is to extract or take or use her for her body. You just can't. So it's time to sort this out, man. So with that said, that's been today's video. I used to masturbate when I was younger, and I'm so glad I stopped. Okay, it does do a lot of damage to your psyche, but the sooner you stop, the better it is. And I know a lot of you men struggle with this, and I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you know someone in your life who's struggling, send them their way. Okay? Share this video with anyone who needs it. And with that said, that's been today's video. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section. For those of you who'd like to learn more about what I teach, my relationship mastery course, link down below. Go to my website, book a call, see if you're eligible, and we'll get you signed up. Also have a community called Relearning Relationships, which you can access and sign up. Link down below as well. You can check out my book, Relearning Relationships, and other formats and where it's available, paperback, hardcover, digital copy. That's up to you. And any other questions you have, my email is there too, down in the description. So you can send me a case study or message me privately if there's something you'd like to know. And with that said, God bless all of you and your families. I'll see you all in the next one.